Hi, my name is Michael Monroe, and this is Just a Conversation.
So my first question is, I know you're an Alabama football fan.
Very much
So
so.
is it true that babies born in Alabama say roll tide before mama?
All the time. Roll Tide.
What was growing up in Alabama like? Do you have any memory of that?
Oh, yes, hot. Uh, Working in the cotton gin with my cousins. Uh, a few other topics, man, dealing with that. Kind of a rough beginning between my mom and dad. You know, my dad was an alcoholic, and it wasn't always peaches and cream, But from that, I learned how I wanted to treat a lady growing up. I know I didn't want to treat a lady like my dad treated my mom. So I turned the bad thing into a good thing when I started dating.
As a segue to kind of get into what you do for work, you have a quote. You said, "The same energy that I devoted to the streets, I'm going to devote 20 times more into saving a child from making the same mistakes I did." Can you
Yes.
expand on that quote?
If I was willing to risk my life and hurt other people to get what I want, why not uh, insert more energy into saving a life, into rebuilding your neighborhood or your community on where you are living at now? I think it's very important for a young person to see a guy, not just me, but other young men that I work with, turn their life around. But there's something better on the other side of those trauma days, violent days, dark days. So I try to give as more energy into the work I do, redoing some of the harm that I caused.
Can you talk more about those early days when you were making those types of decisions?
It more so came from uh, the streets, drug selling. Uh, I never was a bully, so I was the person that defended the person that was being bullied. And to make it, if you will, in the streets of Detroit, in the projects of Detroit, you had to be tough. But I found that if I treat a person right, no matter what you're doing in life, I think if you treat a person right and respect a person, you'll get farther in life. Because you can catch more bees with honey than.
You obviously work with a lot of people that are in similar situations and have gone through what you've gone through. For you personally, what do you think brought you to make those types of decisions?
15 years in prison, uh, losing all of my siblings, and hearing my mother say, I don't want to bury my baby. Something clicked in me to want to change, to make a change, and to help a young person change. Uh, 'Cause I never wanted to hurt my mom, but my life choices kept my mom up a lot of nights, kept my mother crying. But I'm a God fearing man. I know my mother prayers kept me covered, even though I was living a terrible life, a wrong life. And to hear her say she didn't want to bury her baby made me think like, okay, I'm the last one left. Why not make her proud? And to hear her say that, I'm making her proud with my life choices now. I feel that I've arrived, but I still got a long way to go.
How do you deal with being the last sibling?
Sometimes I laugh because it's like I don't have to argue over what she want, how she want things done because it's just me. But I also have my moments whereas I wished I had my brother to call or my sister to call. Um, a lot of things they instilled in me is alive and well in me today in some of my life choices. And like I'm having the privilege, the honor now to take care of my mom. Uh, that she's moved in with me and my wife, and it's like I don't second guess of things she asked me to do. But I know she protected me from a lot growing up. And now I got the opportunity to protect her, to provide for her, and to do things for her. And I find it just an honor.
What age was that when you felt like you started to turn your life around?
Caleb, that's a hell of a question because I ask myself that every day. Was it 16? Was it 14? Because I sold my first pack of you probably wasn't born when they used to call heroin mixed jive. I sold my first pack of heroin at the age of 14. And but I look at the age 16 where I really dived off into the street life. So that's a question that I battle with myself daily. Was I 14? Was I 16? You know, and a lot of people would say in Detroit they grew up in a single parent home or with a bad stepdad. Now, my stepfather was one of the greatest guys I knew. He poured into us like never before. Because he was from the deep south in Texas. He educated himself, and he was an engineer at Ford. So, back then when you're an engineer at Ford, they was making a lot of money. And his biggest thing to me was, I need for you to read. I need for you to read. So in order for me to go out and get back in the streets at a young age, I had to read these books every day. And I applaud him for even accepting all of us, with my mom. When he married my mom, he really gained my respect because my mom had 6 kids, but he married my mom, took care of us, and instilled life into us. And he used to always say, Mike, you don't need to do this. You don't need to do that. But growing up in Detroit, you meet friends, you meet guys that you grow to love and respect. And if they doing something, quite naturally you're gonna do it. But I saw guys go the other way. But it was some appealing about the street life. A lot of people say, well, you had to do this, do that. If you didn't like what you was doing, I don't think you did it. Because I had friends who didn't indulge in the lifestyle that we chose. But I found something appealing about that street life.
Do you know what that was appealing about it?
Money, girls. I was talking to a coworker, and now, thinking back in hindsight, we older and we're doing the work we do. It wasn't even the money; it was just the adrenaline rush that you got away with something. It was just like, oh, I just got away. I'm moving that. I just drove all the way to Kansas. I just drove all the way to Memphis, you know. But some people had to hustle because they didn't have anything. And at one point, that was us, me and my siblings. And, like I tell people, we joke about it. I saw people starving. I saw people hungry. We saw it. So we said, we're not going to be a part of that. So we got to do something about this, And we chose the wrong thing to do. And it costs, And yeah, that was just the excitement of it all. Just the lifestyle, not excitement.
What was it that finally got you caught that put you in jail for 15?
Uh, Second degree murder. And it really bothered me. And when I was going through the trial process. And when I got to prison, it was like, damn, I'm in prison for the next 15 years. And I was meeting people that had been in prison like 30 years, 25 years. Uh, for some reason, they took a liking to me. And they said, man, you come to prison to go home. But I never knew what that meant until I got off into doing my bit, which is doing your time. And 15 years, you see people catch 30 and 40 major infractions. In 15 years, I didn't catch one major infraction because I had set my mind to, okay, you was involved in this heinous crime. Okay, what you gonna do? Prison offer you certain things to do back then, but now I hear it's even worse. You know, I went to school. I went to impulse control and things like that because I was angry. I was angry for a long time. You know, due to some of the trauma I dealt with growing up, and I was just angry with men in general for the simple fact how my dad treated my mom. I didn't trust the guy, and I found myself fighting all the time because of that anger. And growing up in a black household, what happened in your home, stay in your home. So you grow up with this trauma, and I think that's is some of the reason our children are acting out today because they are dealing with trauma that's not being checked and not being talked about. And I dealt with that for a long time. And to be honest, even going through my prison sentence, I really didn't understand it. I was going to those classes to get brownie points to get out of prison. But when I started doing the work that I'm doing, I got back into seeing my therapist, which is one of my closest friends today. Uh, we touched on a lot of stuff that I was still holding on to. You know, that I was still angry with people that I felt hurted me. And in order to get past that, I like to say, you got to destroy all those people that hurted you, that did you wrong. But the person that allowed that to happen, you got to destroy him first. Because if you don't, you're going to get the same people with different faces. So I had to destroy that man that allowed all that to happen in order to move on and to heal from all my trauma.
As a father yourself, what lessons did you take from your father, either good or bad experiences, to be like, I'm going to do this, or instances of, I'm not going to do that?
I believe that my dad, he was a hard worker. And my dad was an alcoholic, uh, which I dealt with alcoholism in my growing up stages. Uh, I don't know how he did it. You know, my dad was mean to my mom, mean to me, but this guy would drink every day, and he worked on the railroad and in the slaughterhouse for like 40 years, and he had a good work ethic. I took that from him that you got to work to eat, but the bad side of it, I didn't want to treat people like that. Even when I sold drugs, I saw how people did the people. I don't even like calling them crackheads or dope fiends. The people that was addicted, the addicts. I treated them like people because these are the people who's putting money in my pocket to provide for my family. So why do I want to hurt them? Why should I hurt them? Even though I was hurting them by selling them drugs and things like that. But as far as the physical and the things I saw guys do to them, I never did that, you know. And I just always wanted to treat people right.
Where do you think that feeling of wanting to do the right thing, wanting to be nice to people, how do you think like that was instilled in you when you weren't really seeing it at home?
Yes, yes. My mother, grandmother, my aunt, my mother's side of the family is just some loving and caring people. And I've always cared for people. I've always liked the people. You know, I never had a dislike for people in general, but dealing with some of the trauma I dealt with, I didn't want you to get close to me because I didn't want you to hurt me. But I always respected people. Even today, I just respect people and I don't want to say I understand all, but I got empathy for people, you know, because everybody's dealing with something. And we should never judge. I don't never judge, you know, because you never know what battles a person is fighting every day, you know. And I think it came from my mother, my grandmother.
How did you transition into what you do now, gun violence prevention work?
I went to a service at Second Baptist Church, and Michael Wilder, he was a rapper then. You know, a lot of people don't remember when Michael Wilder was a rapper. He had braids, and you know, everybody was sharing their testimony. And it was my first time visiting that church. So you know, we go to a church that's They always ask the first timers to stand up, but I didn't think they was gonna ask me to talk. I stood up and they asked me first time, boo boo. And then I told a little bit of my struggles. I asked a few questions. And after service, Michael Wilder walked up to me and said, man, I'm doing this type of work. I'd like to get to know you. But Caleb, this happened like 2000, just giving you a number, uh 2019. So it happened 2019. But I don't hear nothing from Mike for about like 7 years. And I don't know how he got my phone number. He called. He said, man, I got a organization. Because he had started working with Isaac, Dr. Charlotte and them. He said, man, I want to bring you on the team. And I say, at this time, I had started working, had started my 401k, my savings. And I'm like, is this full time? He said, it could be, but it's gonna. I was like, oh no, man. I only had 2 jobs in my life. And I'm out of prison, I'm working. I was like, man, these are things that I dreamt about in prison, getting a good job with health insurance, 401k. Do I want to leave this to to go help people? Which I didn't mind doing because my wife was doing it. But, I said, damn, I got a family. And I meet Dr. Charlotte, and she said, how much money are you making about? And Caleb, I don't really know these people like this at this time. I'm like, this lady asking some strange questions. It took a few more years. And with me doing little outreach stuff, going down to Urban Alliance, meeting Esto, meeting Brother Chris Pompey, meeting everybody that I'm working with now, and everybody doing this work. And I'm like, man, how are y'all paying y'all bills? They was like, man, it'll come, it'll come. I was like, hey, man. And so I said, okay. Because I was enjoying doing what I was doing. And I sat down and talked to my wife about it. She said, Mike, if that's your heart and your passion that you want to do, go ahead. She said, whatever I need to cover, I got you covered. But that made me feel like all this time in prison, you made sure I was good when I was in prison. I want to make sure you good now. I'm about to leave this job and go do this. But it was in me something that I wanted to do because at that time the crime rate in Kalamazoo wasn't that bad, and but it was like tilting that way. And I started talking to some young guys I met over in the old neighborhood, and it's like, man, we need you out here, man. So that's kind of won me over when the young guy was like, Mike, we need you out here, man. A lot of people didn't know my story. A lot of people didn't know my background and some of the things I went through. And what really got me, I went to a meeting with Isaac, Urban Alliance, Dr. Charlotte. That was at Urban Alliance downstairs, and was all sharing our story. And I started sharing my story about how I lost all my siblings, how I had been shot and stabbed. And these people are crying, and I'm crying because I'm real sensitive. And I'm like, and at the end, they was like, man, people need to hear your story. I told Dr. Charlotte, I'll come. I'll come. And it's been great ever since. I don't regret it.
What do you see in when you're talking with someone who's at risk? What do you try and see in them or connect with to get them to relate and understand that you've also been down this path?
I always see myself, I always see my old self. And I always ask myself, what would I want to hear, or what would a person do for me in this situation? Because my therapist always tell me the reason I go so hard for people is that I didn't have nobody to go that hard for me. And I always try to give them what I wanted back then. But I didn't know what I wanted until now, dealing with them. If I'm talking to you and I see you going through, say you lost a loved one, I can feel that pain. Like I said, I lost all my siblings. And if a young man telling me, like, I'm about sick of this, my brother just died, my sister just died. It always stir up something in me. And I just listen. But sometimes, excuse me, sometimes that's all they want somebody to do is listen. A lot of times doing this work, some people make the mistake in telling a person, I know how you feel. If you haven't experienced what that person has experienced at that moment, there's no way you know how that person feel. You know, I learned that from my mom. Uh, when my last sister passed a few years ago, you know, you never forget that scream you hear your mother crying when she's in the room praying, she crying. But you're just trying to find the words, uh, uh, trying to comfort her. And I hugged my mom. I said, Mom, I know how you feel. And Caleb, she looked at me, she said, Michael, no, you don't. And it hurt my feelings. So I just sat there. Then I came out and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, like, man, what did I do? What did I say? And I said, oh, I don't know how she feels. Because at this time, this was the fifth child that had passed away. I would never know that feeling. I would know a brother feeling or a sister feeling, but a mother feeling, I said, I would never say that again unless I've dealt with that. You know, yeah.
How healing is it to be able to help people in a situation that you didn't have that help?
When I get a text and a person say, hey man, thanks. I appreciate that. I'm gonna go this route. That's more rewarding than a check to me because I know a life been saved. You know, I know this young man or this young lady is not finna go do something crazy. Like a gentleman called me today. Uh, he said, Mike, I'm on the edge. I need to talk. I said, okay. I got off the treadmill, made him my side. I said, what's going on, brother? He tell me the situation. I give him the scenario. I say, if you do this, you do that. If I do this, I do this. We both going to prison. So it's over with. Let's move on. Get you another job. So I connected him with my coworker. Got a new job just like that. You know, there's if the violence, I don't see no cause for it. Just our young people just need help. They need to be loved on. They need to be understood. You know, and a lot of people just want to throw them to the side, saying ain't no use for them. There's a lot of use for them. Just got to love them, show them the right way. A teacher got to be able to be taught. If I'm teaching this young man, hey man, you can't do this, you can't do that, and he see me down the street doing that, he gonna be like, man, this guy full of crap. So whatever I give out, I have to be living it.
How much of a difference do you think it makes just being able to have somebody to talk about the things you're going through?
That's a big difference. That makes a big difference because I never used to talk. I still don't like to talk that much, but I find you need an outlet. You need an outlet, especially if you're dealing with some hurt, some anger, some issues. You need somebody that you can sit down and talk to. That's why I applaud my wife. Her and Lena have this thing, Lena on Healing with Healing on Purpose. It's like a safe space. And I went to their first class, and I've been seeing this young lady around town just walking. And she spoke, man, she spoke so elegantly. And she said she just needed an outlet. She just needed somebody that understood and she just needed somebody to talk to and cry with. You know, women are I think women have become more pillars in our community than men. Maybe I'm gonna get beat up for that, but women are doing their thing, man. And a young lady, I'm like, okay. She said, when you see me walking down the street, and she do be talking to herself. She said, I never felt comfortable to talk to nobody until I came here and got around you people.
How do you deal with the stigma as men about talking about your feelings and letting those out?
And you know what? I never had that issue. I don't beat people up when I was young. They would say, Mike, you soft, you always crying. Because I was basically raised with my mom, my sister, my grandmother, and back to my stepfather. He didn't play that. He was more so, you got something on your chest. If it hurt, cry. He said, there's nothing wrong with crying. But I know a lot of people come from that place where, oh, that don't hurt, don't cry. I never had an issue with expressing myself, explaining myself, even sharing a tear, you know. You fell like the skin off your knee, that hurt. How you gonna tell me not to cry? Oh no, it hurt. When I had gout in my foot, man, I cried like a baby. I couldn't even pull my boot off. They had to cut my boot off at the hospital. Express yourself. Why not? But a lot of men don't because, like I said, that stigma. Oh man, you soft, man. That's even with change. Doing the work we do, you see people afraid to change because of what their friends gonna say. And these same guys I went to prison did 10 years, 11 years, and don't nobody send them nothing or no phone calls, no visits, but they come back to the same community and guys be like, man, are you going down there? But I you going down there with GVI? You going down there with Peace Doing War? Man, that's soft. That's keep you out of prison. But them people will get you a job. Them people will walk along with you. But a lot of people think that's soft. Having a job is what's going on these days.
Do you feel like you are more yourself in your current role? More like your true self?
I believe that this is who God created me to be, a loving, understanding, compassionate, empathetic person. Like I said, I'm a strong believer in God. I study my Bible. I try to walk it, and being humble and compassionate. That's what I want to be. That's what I aim to be every day. I always try to bring a smile to a person's face, even in the worstest times. I'll probably say something silly, just trying to get somebody to smile. You know, but that one little joke or that one little smile can build that person up.
What kind of impact do you hope to have on your community?
That life is truly what we make it. You know, it's a saying down south. I hear older people say, "As long as I'm on this side of the dirt, I have a chance." And that's what I try to display to the young men and women that I meet. It's something good in every single day. Something good in every day. You know what I mean? It might be raining, might be snowing. I got an umbrella. I have on warm clothes. Uh, I just look for something good, even in my days that I'm not feeling like myself. I'll find something good that'll perk me up.
I'm assuming it's something that you constantly have to work on. So, was that always as easy to look on the brighter side and try and see the good in things?
For me, yes. Yes. A lot of things that people may struggle with. Okay, say this, right? With all this stuff going on in the world today, there's a lot of people nervous about tomorrow. I'm not nervous about tomorrow simply because I, just speaking for Michael, I believe in God. I believe in the Bible. And for those who may see this, trust in God and believe in God. If God is the one holding the world in his hand, why do I got to worry about tomorrow? That's just my belief. I know some people believe differently, and I don't want people to think I'm saying you don't, but that's just my belief. I just believe if God holding the world in his hand and I'm part of that world, I don't have nothing to worry about.
What does family mean to you?
everything, everything. Uh, like I hear a lot of people always say, "Man, you do this to my family. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this." Uh, if you do put yourself in that predicament and do something, you're away from your family. You know, I honestly just try to keep myself rooted and grounded to be a father, a husband, uncle. I don't want to do anything to jeopardize that, or I'm not finna go out in the street and do something that my family would have to get involved in. So I honestly keep my family sacred, you know. But during the course of my life, when I struggled with alcohol, uh, you learn that your life become selfish. You know, I don't care, mother, father, son, brother, sister. If you're trying to get to a certain point, you got to put them on hold. But once I reached that point, whereas I was the man I am now, I hold them real sacred. I respect them. I listen to them. I love them.
What lesson was the hardest for you to learn?
I'm not always right. I'm not always right. And I used to shut down. If you wouldn't hear me, even though I know I'm wrong in two left shoes, and you not hearing me, you try to explain yourself, I just shut down, you know. But now, what I say ain't always right. I might put my shirt on backwards, and I'm thinking I'm right. You know what I mean? You got to be willing to listen to other people. You know, just because this worked for me, it might not work for Caleb. Caleb might have to go over here and learn. Like a lot of people use AA to conquer AA, but AA didn't work for me because I had other issues going on. The trauma we talked about. I started going to this program called Family and Friends that dealt with trauma. And once I started hitting those marks, that's when I went into my sobriety and didn't look back.
What's a turning point in your life that you didn't realize was one until reflecting on it?
My wife, being married, seeing how she was willing to love me in spite of my shortcomings, in spite of my foolishness, because I never knew a person could care that much. And that struck a light in me that people do care. But like I said, when I got out of prison, I still held on to stuff that people don't really care. People only come along just to get what you can get. Because at one time, we made a whole lot of money, Caleb. And I noticed now that we had all these people coming around, you know, but when I got incarcerated, all the people went that way. You know, just how she loved me and did for me and showed me a better way.
Do you want to tell the story on how you two met?
Kind of crazy because we met and I wasn't really ready to be in a relationship. And I came here, but I had people in Detroit, and she was like, "No, we're not gonna do this." And she put me out. She said, "You're not coming up here with that nonsense." Took me to the bus station, and everything, Caleb. And I thought, cool, left. And but we remained as friends. We always stayed in contact. And she always told me when the smoke settles, I'm gonna be the only one here that started this with you, but I wasn't into the stuff that you was doing. And she was the only one there when the smoke settled, you know. And I went away, came back. I asked, could I come back? I said, can I come back? She said, have you grew up? I thought I did, you know, but like I said, when I was locked up, I didn't tackle the drinking problem because I didn't think I had a drinking problem because I wasn't the one that you saw standing in front of the store asking for stuff or bumming stuff. Always had it, but it was an issue. And with her inviting me back, willing to work with me, uh, introducing me to different things in Kalamazoo. Kalamazoo is very rich with resources. And when I was going through my parole, being on paper, I tackled every one of those resources.
How much do you credit her with the man you are today?
It's a story, Caleb, that old man asked me when I was locked up. After she had came to visit, he saw us sitting out on the yard. Because at one facility, you sit on the yard, and the people in the prison, they walk around the yard. So, uh, come back, real cool old guy, man. Uh, he said, "Oh, he the old man." I let call me a boy. He was old. He had been locked up about 40 years. He said, "Come here, boy." Sat down. He said, "I'm gonna ask you something." He said, "If you answer this question right, you've been listening to me." He said, "If there was a boat, your mother and your wife drowning, who would you save first?" I said, "Can I go back and save one?" He said, "Nope, you can only save one." And, I said, "I'm saving my mama." He said, "You ain't ready." I said, "What?" He said, "When you say you love a woman, you get ready to marry a woman, that wife uh, comes before everybody." And when I got to that point, that's when I asked her to marry me. And you said, how much do I credit her with who I am today? I'm gonna give myself at least 5%. I'm gonna give her 95% of man, because she pushed me, Caleb. She believed in me. She was my biggest fan. There's nothing I wouldn't do for that lady. Nothing. And even back then in the early 90s, Caleb, my mother loved her. And my mother, outstanding woman, and I was in the streets, and my mother respected her. And her and my mother are like two peas in a pod, man. So I would give her at least 95% of my growth and my change, because I need her. I need her every day. Uh, she made space for me when nobody else did. You know, uh, she worked and grind for us when I had to go to class, when I had to work third shift. She changed her shift at work just to get me back and forth to work. And you don't find that today. Not saying women don't do it, but it was a rarity from where I come from. You didn't see that. And she's super. She's super. She's my everything. There's nothing that I needed during that time or now that she didn't do. So yeah, 95%. I'm gonna give myself at least 5. Somebody had to be me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna give myself 5%.
All right, my final question.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you admire in the community?
Caleb, don't do that, man. One person, two people, or
You
how
can
you
list
want
them
me to
off. You
answer
can
that?
list them off if you need to.
First and foremost is our Isaac family. Uh, Dr. Charlay, you, Ashante, Sister Kathy, B, Mike. You know what I mean? Our family with GVI, not to exclude to other organizations, but it's like you guys all I knew when I first started this work. And yeah, but everybody, man, bent not broken, straight motivation, Ed Genesis, his organization. Uh, but if you ask me to pick one person, if I had to say one person in our community, it would be my wife. You know, outside of that, Dr. Charlotte, man, cause she's dope. Uh, it's just our community as a whole. Everybody with boots on the ground is doing the work. Because they could be doing other stuff, but they chose to try to help better our community. Sister Gwendolyn Hooker, awesome lady, doing a great job. Whole bunch of people. That was a tough question. But hope I didn't miss nobody. If I miss you, I'm talking to you too. Love you too. So yeah, man.
All right. Thank you for coming on and doing this with me. Is there anything else that you want to add?
You know, I enjoyed my life, Caleb. I enjoyed my life, and it's I never saw myself being where I'm at today. I've always dreamed about it. I used to look out my prison cell into the clouds, saying, once I get out, I just want to have me a home, my family, come home from work and just relax.
All right. All right. Ad time. Time to read the ads. Today's episode is in partnership with Daily Jam, this show's first sponsor. Daily Jam is my personal music playlist project. We are currently on Daily Jam 8. The way it works is I add one new song every single day, 365 days a year. 366 on leap years with no repeats. The standard for the songs is in the name. Every song I believe is good enough to be played on repeat all day long. My personal Daily Jam. Humbly and respectfully, I have incredible music taste. So if you're curious about this or just interested in what kind of music I listen to, check the link in the description to listen to any Daily Jam playlist. I guarantee you will find songs you love and gems you've never heard before. Thank you to Daily Jam for being a sponsor of today's episode.